Hi guys, it's Debbie and today I'm here to talk about Hope, a Korean film I was influenced into watching from a TikTok video. I know, but it was worth it as it was generally one of the toughest films I've watched in quite a while, but in a way which I felt was necessary, and I'll explain why. Hope tells the story of a young girl who is raped and left nearly dead, but who luckily survives after being found just in time. Even though she is found and undergoes extensive surgery, she is left with irreversible physical and probably psychological damage. And the movie documents her recovery process with all the ups and downs. And what struck me is that the movie does this in an extremely realistic and grounded manner, which I think a lot of media avoid. For example, the film very directly explains what's happened to her, because honestly, why should we avoid the horror of it? It goes into the actual physical damage done to her body and how it will permanently affect her everyday life. It doesn't hide behind all that ridiculous social media language like grape and unalive and PDF file, made for people who want the monetization, who want the views, who want their video to go viral, but without obviously confronting the gravity of the content they're actually talking about. And I'm not talking about journalists, activists, people who are generally trying to get their message out to as many people possible, but trying to avoid their content being limited due to censorships, to moderation filters put over their content. What I'm talking about are the viral videos made purely for views, thrown into CapCut with some popular music and, you know, stick even a sponsorship in there at some point. You know, a life tragedy has to be algorithm friendly. This film instead doesn't detach from what happens. This is an 8-year-old girl who now has to live her whole life with a stoma bag. I'll leave you to imagine the reason for that. Even more horrifying is that it is based on a true story. And another thing the movie portrays very well is the economic toll that this kind of tragedy has on a family, something people rarely want to talk about. Of course you want your child to receive the best care possible. Of course you don't want to leave their side in such a fragile condition. But eventually your leave days run out, somebody has to stop working, their therapists to pay, hospital visits, transportation, medical equipment, distractions and comforts for the child, endless expenses that pile up. And society almost treats it as a taboo to talk about the financial difficulties of this kind of tragedy. It's as if it's shameful to admit that there are economic consequences to it. I mean this in addition to all the physical and psychological damages. But the reality is that trauma also destroys stability, routines, jobs, finances, relationships. And the film actually shows the parents inquiring about money, you know, asking about costs, maxing out their cards, asking friends for money. And I appreciated that the parents are also shown in a very realistic way. They're often not this perfectly united, hugging couple in the hospital corridor. They're two people dealing with something unimaginable, with panic and guilt, anger, confusion, all at once, and naturally they cope different. And it's all these details that made this film feel important to me, because yes, towards the end it does become a little melodramatic, and of course don't expect groundbreaking cinematography, and outside of the 3-4 main characters, the other actors deliver their lines quite flatly. But overall I think these kind of films get people reflecting on topics that are very serious, but which unfortunately often spoken about in very abstract and vague terms. Now, I also understand the criticism some people have towards films based on real crimes or tragedies, where they argue that these stories are ultimately profiting from somebody else's suffering. And honestly, I definitely think that there are exploitative ways and respectful ways to tell a story. Like I said earlier, I find some of these modern true crime storytelling influencers genuinely awful. The exaggerated thumbnails, the newspeak 1984 language, the AI-generated sensationalized titles, the sponsorships put into stories about rape and murder. But then there are films that take a real case and genuinely make people aware of something they otherwise would never have thought about, especially when there's injustice involved. When you watch this movie and read about this story, you genuinely realize how much injustice happened here. And I know that a film won't stop a rapist, a film won't change a law, but it might affect somebody and make them think about something. And you know, with the butterfly effect and a long way down the line, good things could happen in the world. And films can genuinely be educational and get people to know about topics they might have not even have come across otherwise. For example, before watching Holy Spider, I knew absolutely nothing about the Iranian serial killer case it covers and about how the victims were dismissed because they were prostitutes. And we see similar themes in documentaries like Gone Girls. Or take Lilia Forever, which is based on the real story of a teenager trafficked from Eastern Europe into sexual slavery in Sweden. That's a film people constantly describe as life-changing and making them want to be more empathetic. I didn't want this video to become a rabbit hole about the worst aspects of humanity. It's just that sometimes video can make people think about what's going on around them. Without grape emojis. Let me know if you've seen Hope, what you think about it, if it sounds like an interesting movie you'd like to watch, of course everything with a comment down below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to subscribe and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.